name is Suzanne Hart. Welcome to Mindset Mastery. And this live is all about 3 reasons your character is built in the fall, right? In the rise from the fall. These are those moments where something has happened in your life and you are getting back up. And you're struggling to get up. This is the moment where you think that life has run you over, backed up, sat on your chest, and you are having one of those moments. So this is for you. If you want to become, you want to increase your bounce back, this is for you when you want to see the blessing in every situation. This is for you if you want to find out how to really begin to see the gift in every single situation. Okay, so let's jump right into this. And I hear that people can't hear me well, so let me see if I can help with that. Please let me know if you can hear me better. I see Cindy, I see Taria, I see Anila has joined us. Please let me know if you can hear me so that I can get this moving. Okay, so I want to jump in by, I see Anila's joining from Miami. I want to jump in by talking a little bit about a situation of my own. And I'm talking about a situation where the unexpected happened, or I should say the expected happened. But you know, sometimes in the moment you create a situation or you're in a situation and something happened, it's totally not expected. But when you look at it in hindsight, you understand that, oh my gosh, yeah, this is exactly what should have happened. So I've had some situations where I have been let go. I have been ousted from an organization, ousted from a committee. Yes, it has happened. So how many of you have actually had a situation where you've been let go by an employer, let go, laid off, let go, fired, whatever you want to call it, that has happened to you? Or you have been part of a team, an organization, and a situation, and they told you they don't want you around anymore. They don't need you, you gotta go. I have experienced all of those situations. Now, when I say it on face value, you're like, what? Yes, I've been asked to leave, don't come back. Now, when it first happened to me, when I got let go, I remember the feeling of devastation. I remember the feeling of anxiety. I remember the feeling of shame, embarrassment, anger, frustration, you name it. I ran the gamut. I remember crying with such upset and shock that I was devastated, for lack of a better word. And in this other situation where I was ousted, if you will, I was devastated. I was angry. I was frustrated. All the emotions of someone that feels betrayed. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Because I want you to really begin to follow this journey, because character, I said, is built in those moments. These are the moments where if you choose to, you get to discover something about yourself. So how many of you listening have had a situation where you have discovered something about yourself just because of your willingness to examine a situation? Because that's really what we're talking about right now, is your willingness to examine and look at a situation. So for me, that was exactly what was going on. It was my willingness to look at and examine a situation. So first of all, here I am, I have been let go, I have been ousted. Now the situation that created it for both situations I'm going to talk about tonight was I was willing to defend, to stand up for someone who I believed was not being treated very well. So I stood up for that person, and I spoke to the person who was not treating the other person with respect. And so in that moment, I knew that I was making a decision that had a consequence. Either way, I was making a decision that would create a conflict. I was making a decision that would create a upset. I was making a decision that would create a ripple effect, if you will. What was different was I didn't expect the ripple effect to be the magnitude that it was, which was the result of me being let go, being asked to leave. Now, as I share this with you, this to me was the devastation because I felt betrayed. Now, the thing that made it worse was in both situations, the person that I defended went on as nothing happened, and I was left ousted. Loss of job, loss of organization connections, just at a loss. Now, part of what I want to think about in this moment is what's available to you and where is character built? What becomes available to you? So this is where I really want to have our conversation tonight. So as I was looking at, my character, your character, and thinking this through, I was, where is character built truly? Well, your character is built when you're willing to look at the situation, but look at it from this place of being really objective. So I'm going to ask some questions that I asked myself, and go ahead, type them in the comment section, write them down, because these questions are truly, truly questions of value. Okay. So the first question I had to ask myself was, what was I expecting to happen? Right? Or what was the event? And the event was I stood up for someone, and I expected them to be grateful, for us to get along, and that there would be a ripple effect, but not as big as it was. My expectation, nothing that happened was there. But that was my expectation. But the event was actually, I just stood up for somebody. But this is the key thing. I made that decision. I made that choice. I had to take 100% responsibility for actually making that choice. So that was the first thing. Then I had to ask myself, well, what did I make it mean? Well, I made it mean a lot of things. I made it mean that people didn't care about me. I made it mean that people were unfair. I made it mean a whole bunch of things that was adding to my emotional upset. Now, the reality was, in both situations, the person was grateful that I stood up for them. Could they do anything for me? Not necessarily. But I made it mean so much that it created my emotional upset. So that was the second thing I had to look at. Well, what did I make it mean? But then I had to ask myself, what did I have to accept? And really what I had to accept was that I was let go because I chose to get involved in a situation. In both situations, I was asked to leave. I was let go because I chose to get involved in a situation. And I had to take full responsibility for this choice. Now, this is the interesting thing, is oftentimes when we make a choice and it doesn't go the way we expected, and there's a consequence, we don't like to take responsibility for choosing the action in the first place. But what I had to contend with was no one actually asked me to choose the action I did. I chose it on my own accord. So that was the thing. I had to sit in acceptance of the choice to take the action to stand up for the person on both occasions was a choice that I made myself. Totally made it. So I was left with that. I was left with that choice. So this is where the rubber meets the road. So as I accept my choice, I begin to sit with Suzanne. I begin to sit with, I made the choice, and now I'm living the consequences of my choice. So the question I had to ask myself was why? What was the reason I was motivated to make the choice? This is where the character building for Suzanne began to occur. This is where things began to really, well, how can I say this? exposed themselves for me. And I began to look at myself, Suzanne, from a deeper level. So, here's some questions I asked myself, and I wrote them down because I really wanted them to get. So, one was, what was the lesson for me? And as I began to search why in both situations I stood up and defended someone, the lesson for me, or the reason why, was I truly believe that I am to treat people the way I want to be treated. That was it. I didn't think beyond that. That was my truth. I would treat people the way I want to be treated. So my response was me being for someone who I would want them to be for me. Now, whether they choose to be like that for me is their choice. Remember, no one said anything once I was ousted, right? So whether they chose to be that for me was totally their choice. But at the same time, I had to take responsibility for the reason I stood up was I want to treat people the way I expect them to be treated. So that was the first learned for me. And that was the thing that I had to understand. Now, the second thing that became apparent for me was that there were some principles that were guiding me that I realized were actually non-negotiables, right? And so one of them was integrity, right? I needed to show up consistently and persistently. And it had a lot to do with how I treat people is how I want to be treated. And if I'm going to talk to that, which I did all the time, I will treat people the way I expect to be treated, then I had to sit in this place called integrity. I also began to look at, I value open and honest communication. And I knew that if I didn't speak, I would feel like I wasn't being honest, but I also knew it would change the dynamics in the relationship I was having with everybody around me. Because I witnessed something, and for me not to have open and honest conversation and speak up about it would mean that I was not willing to be honest in my communication. And remember, communication is what I say and what I don't say. My communication is what I do and what I don't do, because how I am in the world tells people a lot about who I am. So for me, one of the values was open and honest communication. So with those two things at play, I made a choice that was in absolute alignment with who I was. Now, this is a thing that that was the blessing in it, right? So because sometimes we ask ourselves, what is the blessing in the lesson? And for me, what I realized was the blessing in the lesson was that I people came to know me as my behavior. So although people didn't stand up for me in the moment, what began to happen was that's how I became known. So as I was building my character and I was becoming aware of the values and principles that guided me, I was also teaching the world who I was and who I was willing to be for myself and who I was willing to be for other people. So if this is resonating with you, put resonating or yes in the comment section. Now, see, for me, that was the key thing. That was the blessing, was I began to understand the principles and values that actually guide my life. And so that was the blessing. Now, the other question I had to ask myself, well, what was the growth for me? And I have to tell you, as I reflected on it, preparing for the live, in both of these situations, the growth was one, being willing to take responsibility for when I was going to disrupt an environment. In other words, sometimes we say things and we do things and it creates a disruption in the environment. In other words, it shakes things up. And the shake up and the fallout of that shake up is often unpredictable. So before I go into something, being willing to accept and take full responsibility for how I was going to shape something up. And for me, that became a huge learn and a huge place of growth because, it's talking about choosing your battles and also having awareness of the consequences of your battles, but knowing that once you choose, it's you that is choosing. So that was a big, big growth for me. The second thing that became a really big growth for me was the realization that once again, I had these things that I didn't know about that were guiding me. Now, why is this so key? Because if I were to ask everybody listening, what are the principles and values that guide your life? I would say that most people would not be clear. Most people wouldn't know what are the principles and values, the non-negotiables that guide my life. And what I became present to was that in both of those situations, what was at play that had me stand up and stand for someone, probably before I even really thought it through and thought through the consequences, was the principles and values that I didn't know were guiding me kicked in. And they kicked in. Treat people like the way you want to be treated. Open and honest communication, integrity. They kicked in and I acted from this place. So over the years, I have reflected on all the situations where I am called to act, even when I don't want to, when I'm called to act, even when I'm afraid, when I'm called to act, even when I think I'm going to disrupt something. And what it revealed to me was actually my character, those values and principles that guide me. And so as I've gone through the years, I look back at those situations and I say, my character was formed in those moments. My character has been formed in every time I am called to make a difficult decision that tests who I am and how I want to be known in the world. And whether I rise to the occasion or I shrink from the occasion determines how the world knows me. But more importantly, it determines how I know myself. Why is this so key? This is key because, and I've said this on a number of lives, is no matter where we go, we take our, what people will call our conscious, I call it the filing system in our mind with us. We take it with us. And how we consistently show up, right? My character is the sum total of my habits expressed over time. So how I and you consistently show up is truly how I'm known to myself. So when I get into a situation, it's almost like my mind opens the filing cabinet and says, this is who you are in these situations. And that is how I know myself. So if I tend to shrink in situations that are difficult, I become to know myself as someone who shrinks in situations that is difficult, and that's my character. And not only do people know me that way, but the hard part is I know myself as that way. And then it becomes more challenging to do something other. So for me, when I began to look at this and I began to discover these principles that guide me, I started to write them down. And I started to write them down because they got me through some challenging situations. So today I have 8 principles that actually guide me. Now, this is what I really want to leave you with in terms of, remember I said your character's formed and those rise from the falls. For me, what has happened is I have these 8 characters: commitment, persistent, open, honest communication, integrity, right? Those are a few. And this is the piece that's really interesting, is because I know what they are right now and I know what defines me. Whenever I am faced with a difficult decision, whenever I'm faced with something I want to do, maybe I don't want to do, I go back to these principles and I check my decision against what I know to be my character, what I know to be the ideal self, the person I want to be known as in the world. And unlike in those situations where I made a decision not knowing what the value was that was guiding me and was devastated, I go into situations now going, I'm going to make a difficult decision based on this principle. And the outcome may be difficult, but I go in prepared for it. I go in with expectation, but I go in fully in this place of awareness, but also in this place of feeling very grounded in who I am. I go in honoring myself, and I believe honoring the situation. And every time I honor my situation, particularly in difficult situations, and I honor who I am, it's almost like my character expands. It becomes fortified. I become stronger. Now, this is where I'm really going with this. So two things happens in this situation is one is I get to make a decision that fills me. But this is where the beauty in it is. Leadership in its true sense is not about leading other people. It's about knowing yourself and leading yourself boldly. Leadership is not about power over people. It is about empowering yourself and who you're being, empowering other people. Leadership is not necessarily about position or title. It is what you do in the absence of position or title that is based on who you know yourself to be. And so as you go through these challenging situations that build and challenge your character, it also builds and creates who you are in the world and how you lead yourself in the world, and therefore how you're known. Now, why is this important? Is because the leaders that inspire and influence us are more than likely the leaders that are consistent in character. It are those individuals who demonstrate character traits that inspire us. They make the difficult situations that are best for everyone, not necessarily just best for themselves in tough situations. They are consistent, and you can count on them being who you know them to be, no matter what's going on. They understand that equity is treating people with equality, and sometimes equality is not the same, but it's making sure that everybody has equal opportunities, right? So these are the things that are available to us when we look at this. So I want to talk to you a little bit about, our gift for you tonight. So as I was preparing this live, I developed a little cheat sheet that you can take away that will allow you to just ask yourself some of the questions I've learned to ask myself when I get into difficult situations. In order to get that, what you want to do is you want to put notes in the comment section. And when you put notes in the comment section, you will get access. You'll get a notice in Messenger. Go complete it, pick it up, and totally you'll have access to that. So that's the first question. That's the first piece that we have. The second thing we have for you is if you put mastermind in the comments section, you will get access to our mini course. And every week we give you the free Mindset Mastery mini course. And the Mindset Mastery mini course is really around being able to really understand what this concept called mindset mastery is. So what is mindset mastery? These are really breakthrough strategies to shift your thinking. It really is around you being able to keep moving when faced with fear, uncertainty, challenge, so that you can master your thinking, your emotions, your communication, and your behaviors, so that you can show up as a person you want to be known as and take the actions that make you proud of who you're being in the world. The mindset mastery is really the developing of your personal leadership and your personal knowing of yourself, right? So one of the questions I think that's being asked is character built or revealed? Oh my gosh, that is a beautiful question. So, um, so this is the interesting thing. Character is built and revealed, if that makes any sense. So Cindy, let me explain this to you like this. So we all have situations where let me go back to my situation. So in the situation where I got let go, right? What happened was I made a decision, and that decision created an outcome, a consequence if we, right? So cause and effect, behavior, outcome. And in that moment, it revealed something about me that I didn't know, or it may have existed, but I didn't really understand the magnitude, the importance of it. So for me, what happened was I began to understand this, the importance of integrity, the importance of treating people the way I want to be treated, and treating them the same way. So that was revealed. Now it was not only was it revealed, but the weight of it was revealed to me. Where my character was built was I willing to continue to act that way, even in after knowing the consequences of that behavior. So first it was revealed, right? How many of you have situations where you get an aha or some insight about who you are in the world, who you are for yourself and who you are for other people? There's a revealing. Once you have that awareness, the building of character is taking that awareness and using it. Because sometimes we have awareness and we don't like how we're being, and it's taking that awareness and using it to build character. So there's sometimes things will reveal that I'll stop doing that behavior, and sometimes things are revealed that I'll continue to do this behavior because it's who I want to be known as. So yes, it's revealed, but then we get to build our character by repeating those traits and habits that move us forward. And you know, it's interesting because mindset mastery is built on insight and knowledge. So the revealing is insight and knowledge. The building is acting on the new information and doing something useful with it. So that is really the piece that we're talking about. So let me see what if there's anything I wanna leave you with. I want to talk about being able to course correct too, right? And course correct is shifting directions. And Cindy, you asked a great question. So if character is revealed, sometimes our character will tell us something about ourselves that we may not like, right? Sometimes you have those moments where you go, I don't like how I'm being, I don't like how I'm showing up, or I don't like how I'm consistently showing up. That new knowledge, that new insight, that new reveal, using your word, Cindy, now allows you to course correct and shift. So another principle in mindset mastery is lifelong learning. Now, lifelong learning is not just textbook learning. It's not just getting new information. Lifelong learning is lifelong insight about who I am in the world and how I'm showing up. It's insight about those situations and circumstances that trigger me to be who I want to be or be who I don't want to be. And in those moments, lifelong learning says I either continue to use a behavior or I shift and I course correct and I choose a new behavior. But this is the thing, we all have the power to choose. And so your character is built in every choice you make, but your character can also be destroyed in every choice you make. But it's often the rise that makes it happen. So the last thing I want to tell you is if you're in a situation that's tough, beautiful, brilliant, amazing. If you're in a situation where you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is so challenging, don't go into pity party, don't go into victim, go into this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity. This is my sharpen the saw, polish the diamond moment. This is my growth moment. And now what I want you to do is I want you to look for the blessing. I want you to look for the lesson. I want you to look for the growth opportunity. And I want you to look for how your character is being built. Because you see, Our character isn't built in those beautiful moments where everything's perfect and things are just going the way we want it. Our character's built in those valleys, those dark moments, those places where you can't find your way out. That's when your character's being built. That's when you're being polished. That's where where the saw's being sharpened. And it's your ability to find a solution, ability to find an answer. It's your ability to redefine yourself, to redefine habits and behaviors and maybe establish new values. That is where your character is being built. But first you need the inside, as Cindy said, then you build your character. So that is what I have for you today. Thank you for your patience. A little bit of technical difficulties at the beginning, but it always works out. That's what happens when we go live. And so this is what I want to leave you with. One is put notes in the comment section to get the sheet with all the questions related to this live, so you can take away and work on what we worked on today. So put notes in the comment section and then go to Messenger to make sure you complete that and pick up your gift. The second thing is you can register for the mini course I know it's in the invitation for the live. It's also by putting mastermind in the comment section. You can also book a mindset mastery mentoring moment with Suzanne. I would be happy to continue this conversation with you and help you begin to really look at polishing yourself, really looking at what might need to happen for you to reveal the character and the person you were called to be. Remember, leadership is not about other people. Leadership is about leading yourself brilliantly. It is about you being the person who inspires and creates influence in the marketplace and in the world. So with that, I'm going to say thank you so much for joining me tonight. My name is Suzanne Hart, and this was Mindset Mastery. I will be back here 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next week, and I will be having a guest. So check for the invitation, make sure and register for your reminder for the live, and I will see you back here next week. Take care and blessings.